Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, the meme market, and any other way we can make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. We have a variety of things to talk about. We've got Bitcoin getting back over 95K. We discussed some of the factors around that. Curious for Legendary's thoughts as well, after me and Brad were talking a lot around Bitcoin and kind of Bitcoin dominance yesterday. As we're going to talk about MasterCard powering stablecoin transactions. I'm going to do a bit of a meme coin review today to see what's going on that side of things. Things were heating up, maybe a touch cool down. Definitely seems like there's more activity there at the moment. We're going to also talk general market rotations and where liquidity is flowing as usual. Got Legendary in the co-host seat today, and we're ready to get into it. But just a reminder, friends, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is very, very risky, and we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution, exercise your own judgment, and be well. Go well in your endeavors to get rich on the internet. Legendary. That is the introduction for today. It's Tuesday. It's 29th of April. How you doing? How you feeling?
GM, doing quite well. Arrived into Dubai yesterday, middle of the night, went straight to bed, woke up, and headed to our breakfast event, which we hosted this morning with some very good friends of the show, with anywhere between like 25 and 30 people in total. And I very much enjoyed it from all the events we have hosted so far. How did you like it?
I thought it was very good. Primary reason it was very good is that we had a lot of good people, so that is always good. Secondary reason it was very good was we did breakfast. Everyone wants to throw after like evening events or drinks or food or this and that, and I get it, because I guess there's all kinds of cool things that you can do. But I honestly think the alpha is in breakfast. We did our first breakfast event in Paris a couple of years ago. I can't even remember when. Maybe it was last year or the year before. And the thing that we always get feedback on for our events is that they're always really good, A, because we have good people, but B, it's like it's different to the other events because there's no sponsors, there's no like fanfare, there's no agenda, really. It's purely about just getting some people in a room and getting people to chat. And so we just had breakfast and had a chat, and it was like a bunch of good people. So fairly low key, but I mean, obviously expanding this year. I think the first time we did it with like 12 people in Paris, maybe, or 15 people. This time was probably double that. So, and also the room was great. So it was like a standing room. Everyone could just kind of mill around and get.
I don't know if I lost you, B, or if you lost me. Funky, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Legendary. I lost B for sure.
Gotcha. Then I'm gonna see if B is able to join us from the audio side, from the spaces. B, are you here? I see you off mute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, are you still running on the video then?
I'm still running on the video, and I think the audience can hear me. Funky said he could hear me, so that should work.
Okay, cool. Well, basically, I said the event was great. Funky, you were at the event as well. How did you find it? What were your thoughts before we get into the main stuff today?
No, I absolutely loved it. I think you guys smashed it. I met so many really cool people. Max and I were geeking out about philosophy for a good bit there. And I think one of the things that was the comment that was most pervasive among many of the people was that you were getting them up early. Like Ryan explained to me that Dubai is very much a nightlife city. And so people don't really start their days until like 10:30, 11 when the breakfast was winding down. And I even saw Sanjay's comment about, getting him up early, but it was just really well attended, great conversations, great people. I think you guys smashed it.
Appreciate it, man. It was absolutely great to see you as an individual again after a long period of time, but also to get that snap that I think a lot of people were looking for. Me, you, Legendary, Rahim, it was great to kind of all be in the same place for the first time ever. Next time will be with Bread at an undisclosed location in the future. That'll be the thing that we are aiming for. Maybe that's like a 2025 goal or something like that. But also shout out to, I'm just going through the audience, Shaolin, who is listening in from Mycelium. He came direct from the airport. We had, Shaolin, you were not the only person who came direct from there. We had 2 people coming direct from the airport to join in. So that was pretty cool. And also great to see you for the first time as well, because that was the first time we've met in person. We obviously had a chat before separately, but as I said, really great to put like faces to profile pictures, or just real faces to digital faces, because often we've like actually seen a number of you now and got to know you more. So always good to connect IRL. So really enjoyed it. We'll definitely try to do that again, and hopefully it'll be with more of you in a different corner of the world, wherever we go. Very much enjoyed it. So that is that from me. Thanks so much for joining us. If you did, hopefully see you next time. If we didn't, Ledge, any final thought from you here before we get into the main stuff today?
Yeah, very much loved that. And I think, as you said, breakfast is the alpha. It just makes sure you have people who, it's, you said it perfectly. It's the commitment. It's the loyalty test. Is someone willing to get up for us to get to the breakfast, to see us before all of the craziness of the other events and tokens starts? And we had quite a very, very beautiful turn up rate. So I was very happy with that.
Absolutely. It's the litmus test. Basically, the question is, will you wake up? Are you able to wake up for an event? And as Funky said, if people are not aware, they haven't been to Dubai before, the natives in Dubai were very much like, guys, are you crazy? I cannot believe you are trying to get us up before 9 a.m. to get to an event. But actually, there were a bunch of other people, like Adam from Proof of Play, one of our partners. He was completely up for it. It's just like, yep, I'm an early person, going to get to the event, going to have breakfast, going to go about the rest of my day, execute on like all these other different things that they've got to get done. So very much depends where you're from, and various other things. But as you've all said, really good event. Hope we can do that more in the future with more of you. Stand out for me. So really enjoyed that. Let's get into it as usual. Another Funky mentioned one piece of feedback from the thing. Another piece of feedback people got on the show is that we don't mess around. We're like, constantly trying to be concise and get to the information. So let's do that as well. Getting into the main price action as usual, starting with Bitcoin up top. We did actually hit 95k for a bit. Now we're back down to 94.8. It's pretty much flat in the majors, to be honest. ETH is also just at 1.8. XRP is flat more or less at 2.3. BNB is at 600. Solana is just down a couple of percent, just lost $150, but no real stress in the market and the majors in that respect. Getting into the meme coin side of things, nothing too crazy either. Obviously, yesterday was a very, very green day, so it feels like we've pulled back a little bit across the board. We've down a couple of percent for Doge, down a couple of percent for Pepe. Trump is actually down 10%. Bonk is down a couple of percent. Fartcoin's down 4% to $1.12. Pengu's down a few percent as well. SPX down 10%. Popcat's down 14%. So like the things that were up the most seem to be down the most now, but still generally up on the last week because we've had that huge move up in general. So yes, that's probably the main thing to say. Bit of a red day in general. Unsurprising given how fast things moved up not so long ago. Getting into the main headlines. Obviously, I didn't write a full snapshot today because we were busy at the event, but we've done the research to figure out what on earth we're going to talk about. In general, Saylor bought another 1.42 billion at 92k. And interestingly, Legendary is going to explain this more in a sec. Arizona House and Senate passed a Bitcoin bill. So we'll find out a bit later what Legendary has to explain about that. We also had MasterCard announcing that they'll be powering stablecoin transactions. We've spoken about stablecoins all the time. That sounds like important news. And then finally, we'll do a bit of a meme coin review in just a bit to see what we think about what is going on in that area. Legendary, is there anything you want to bring up on the NFT side before we hit the Web3 roundup? Because there's some other cool bits of news as well.
Yeah, there's a couple short bits that I want to touch on real quick. One of which main actually is that both the pudgies and the little pudgies are on a very beautiful 7-day trend. They are up 21% and 24% respectively. And that is also on some very serious volume. We have had 460 ETH in volume just for the big pudgies alone over the last 24 hours. That is the one thing that stood out. The second thing is the Genesis collection by OpenSea is following a similar trajectory. It's also creeping up 17% over the week, now at a 0.0377 ETH floor. And then as the last thing, CryptoPunks are now at a 44.1 ETH floor, which in dollar terms means that they again have crossed at the current price of ETH $80,000 and sitting at 80.7K.
Wow, CryptoPunk's back at 80.
Yeah, almost 81.
Damn, these things just happen so fast and so sneakily sometimes. CryptoPunk went as low as like 65, I think, or 60-ish for a period of time when it kind of flirted with 40K and ETH went down to like 1.5, 1.6. So in dollar terms, yeah, that's quite a nice little recovery there on the CryptoPunk side. Excellent update there. Getting into the rest of the roundup, we had Tether releasing its first attestation for its gold-backed stablecoin. It has more than 7.7 tons of gold backing it. That's just pretty interesting to note. We had World Liberty Fire announcing a partnership with Pakistan. They said it was an incredible experience meeting with the Pakistan Crypto Council and the leaders shaping the future of crypto. We're proud to be building with Pakistan to drive innovation forward. Remember, it wasn't so long ago that Pakistan also announced CZ as some type of crypto advisor to the country, which in general, all of this stuff happening is very much leading people to believe that kind of Bitcoin reserves are coming for all of these places. What type of advice would people be giving to countries other than, well, I'm sure there's other stuff, but at a minimum, you want to be involved in crypto, you better buy some Bitcoin, right? That's probably like stage one of how you can get involved in crypto in some way before you then probably lay the rails of infrastructure for how you become a useful place and kind of contribute to the industry. So that is that. A couple of other things. Rumors of Thruster on Blast shutting down, but the team said that they're fully operational. Thruster was the biggest DEX on Blast. You remember Blast being the very popular L2 from maybe a year and a half ago. Now certainly less popular. So yeah, it sounds like they're fully operational still at the moment. Ledger and Pudgy Penguins release a custom Ledger Flex. I thought that was pretty cool. Went to a Pudgy Penguins Ledger event yesterday where we were given these bags with those Ledger Flexes included in them. So very, very cool collaboration between two big Web3 brands. Melania team sells $1.5 million worth of tokens. Remember, the Melania and Trump teams tokens are due to unlock or are able to be unlocked. The Trump team allegedly has not sold any yet, or they have not sold any yet, whereas the Melania team, it looks like, has begun to sell. Very important if you plan on trading those specific tokens. So that's a quick roundup from the rest of the space. I don't think there was, there's other bits of interesting stuff going on, but certainly not as volatile a day after what has been, I guess, a pretty volatile week. So a little bit of cooling off here. Most things just a touch red, consolidating without giving up the gains at all. Like all those gains have still stood. So legendary, that is the Web3 roundup to get people up to speed with everything else in the space. Before we get into the main headlines today, is there anything that is catching your attention?
I like the Tether news here. I like the 7.7 tons of physical gold that they have for a couple of reasons. So first of all, we talked about gold being on a very, very nice trajectory, had reached all-time high. It went to almost 3.5K or to around 3.5K per ounce. And just real quick, I can hear some background noise. So if you could quickly mute yourself, that would be great on the spaces. Getting back to that, yeah. So the physical backing is cool because not all gold derivatives have that, and we talked about a situation where if you wanna have a lot, if you see a lot of investors trying to redeem that physical gold, and the backing is the derivative investments, ETFs, whatever they have, and the physical backing is not there, that might be very, very uncomfortable as a situation. And it's good to see that they also have the attestation, which comes from the accounting firm BDO. BDO is one of the biggest accounting firms. So you typically have the big four, EY, Deloitte, KPMG, and PricewaterhouseCoopers and BDO in many countries is the 5th largest. So it is a reputable company that is doing this attestation. And I just wanted to put this number into perspective. So obviously that gold-backed coin has 770 million market cap, 7.7 tons backing that. And I looked at some countries to put it into perspective to see how significant the holdings are. And actually, there is countries like Latvia or Lithuania who hold 6.6 tons of gold, obviously smaller countries, where Tether is now holding more gold than those countries. Obviously, those are not some countries that are heavy in gold investments, like even a small country like my own, like Austria has 280 tons of that, but it's already at a point where Tether is seriously competing not only with the amount of treasury bills that they hold for the main stablecoin, obviously, which is larger than some of the largest governments in the world, but also competing with some of the nation states that hold gold as well, which is pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, that's very cool. Quick question on this then. You obviously know a little bit more about the gold stuff than me. Are you saying how it's not obvious that when you buy any type of gold online, that is necessarily going to be backed by gold anywhere else? Are you saying that Tether with this specific attestation is maybe more backed than anything else then? Like, would this be a viable place for you to get your gold exposure via this specific vehicle instead, because it's been attested in this way now? Is that how you would think about it?
So typically, if you look at ETFs, you have two types of you have more types of ETFs. But when it comes to backing, there's like two main types. One of which is the physically replicated ones. That is, you have an S&P 500 ETF, which is physically replicating. That means that all of the shares in the S&P 500 are being bought by the ETF and traded in the correct proportion, which has the upside that, well, there are the physical shares backing that ETF. There is, in case of gold, the physical gold backing the ETF. The downside of that is that you have higher trading fees because obviously someone needs to buy all these stocks. And then the other thing is optimized sampling, which is not done by buying all of the things in the ETF. It's done by buying the main things or by buying other derivative products that represent whatever basket you're building. And this works in a similar, not exactly the same way for gold as well, where you have like physically backed products and you have products that don't have a full physical backing or that have other products, other derivatives in there that represent the gold price, that have maybe swaps in there, whatever it might be. And with this attestation, I would say that you could look at this currency now at the same level as a physical like as a ETF that is backed by physical gold. I would like put them at almost the same level, because there's like still some more disclosures that ETF providers obviously need to do, and Tether's a private company coming up with this attestation. So I would not say that it's better than a physically backed gold ETFs, but it's getting, so to speak, closer to that range.
Very interesting. Okay. I definitely wasn't aware of that. I hadn't thought about that so much, but that's pretty interesting. What else? Anything else that is catching your attention? When I was looking at this in the morning, I think in general, the thing that I would comment before we get into the main headlines, two things. One, Pakistan seems to be doing a bunch now. CZ on the one hand, World Liberty Fi on the other hand. That's kind of interesting. But then maybe more interesting is World Liberty Fi going off and kind of creating these partnerships. Not exactly obvious what the partnership is. When they were commenting on what it was, they just said, we're proud to be building with Pakistan to drive innovation forward. So I think this is just going to be a trend of the rest of, well, beyond this administration, separating the private enterprise of World Liberty Fi with the political administration is definitely going to go on for the rest of the political administration. The World Liberty Fi are going to continue to, I guess, take advantage of the growing and some more certain confidence in crypto as an industry, kind of expanding their power and influence and partnerships across the board. If you think about it, one question I had, Legendary, was this kind of question out loud to myself, but I guess I kind of thinking about it, kind of concluding as well. Is this not like incredibly, like, say World Liberty didn't exist, right? If the counterfactual to the current situation is World Liberty didn't exist in the previous world of crypto. They've come in primarily because the Trump administration knows that crypto is going to be in a good position in the next few years. I hesitate to say next few decades because they might do so many destructive things that the next administration might repeal some of this stuff. That's my fear. Like, that's just a fear that exists, because if we go too hard and do too many stupid things, or maybe arguably even in too many corrupt things, we might give people down the road a chance to criticize it and maybe repeal this stuff. But putting that aside for a second, in the world where they didn't exist, this should have been, or this would have been, someone like Coinbase, right? Someone like Coinbase, one of these American crypto companies going around the world, kind of extending crypto, because they would have been the best person to be in a position to do that. And so on some level, my question that I'm thinking out loud is World Liberty Fi's advance in crypto bearish for Coinbase and any other American crypto institutions which were probably expecting to benefit a great deal from a more positive regulatory environment, which is now no longer which, although they're going to get the positive regulatory environment, the point is the Trump administration, okay, separate the political, the World Liberty Fi and these other business avenues from the family seem to be wanting to take advantage of all of those new avenues themselves. So that's one of my lines of thinking. Funky, I know you're going to have some thoughts if I'm attacking the coin bag, so we definitely want to come to you on that. But Legendary first, what do you think of this line of thinking from me?
I thought about it as well, maybe from a slightly different perspective, because, or maybe as an extension to your perspective is the right way to put it, because it makes perfect sense, right? So you have World Liberty Fi, you have the Trump family doing all those different things and extending their influence across multiple industries, across multiple countries even. And then does that almost like pressure some investors to want to invest into World Liberty Fi to also sit on the same table? Now I'm looking at, say, DWF Labs, the market maker, and also VC. Like, DWF is not only a market maker, they're a very, very huge VC with, I think, 600 to 700 portfolio companies, as well as, what was the stat? 30% of the top 1,000 on CoinMarketCap, they have some sort of exposure to, and they had invested 25 mil into World Liberty Fi. And now there's this partnership with Pakistan. So they are now one step closer to potentially talk to the Pakistani government as well when it comes to whatever might be relevant for their own agenda. So does that mean that at some point, if the Trump family is opening so many doors and working on all of these relationships, that if you have the money as a company, as an entity, that you almost like feel pressured to buy either like the World Liberty Fi token or to invest in the company to get one step closer, or to have the illusion that you're one step closer? Because I could see a situation like that. To your question specifically, I don't necessarily think that this is taking away from a company like Coinbase trying to do something similar and trying to go for those partnerships themselves. Maybe it might even be easier to a certain extent if there is now a partnership with a, how do we call it? Like with a company that is 1 to 2 steps removed from the US administration, that might even make a conversation starter easier to go. But I would say that for certain types of companies, it might become more difficult. Like if you're a DeFi protocol who would have hoped to work with the Pakistani government, and now World Liberty Fi is there, that might be a bigger competition point. But from a Coinbase perspective, like Coinbase, I don't think that this is an issue that would take away from their potential capability to do something similar.
Interesting. I think what you said was true about the DeFi protocol, and I think that it's true for Coinbase. I think Coinbase has separate issues when it comes to the Circle. Well, I think maybe that's Circle's specific issues, right? In the way that Circle is super dependent on Coinbase for distribution, but maybe that's a separate point. Funky, want to bring you into the conversation. I know you're going to have a strong take. What do you think about World Liberty Fire's entrance into this kind of advisory, pseudo advisory partnership style agreements with different countries, and the impact of that on maybe some of the crypto institutions that might have hoped to secure some of those positions?
Thanks, B. I'm just going to say it. I'll start off by saying I don't think it's going to have the impact that you think. Let's just rewind a little bit. And before the election, Trump has always been, and I think Americans are broadly used to this, right? And I'm speaking sort of on behalf of all Americans at this point. We just realize he's going to do things. He is going to be look at how many, what did he do, like 15,000 NFTs, per collection, multiple collections, selling sneakers, selling whatever. Like, this guy is just, at the end of the day, a salesman. He's going to sell services. I don't think that it's necessarily bearish for the US or having a future administration unwind things, assuming that everything goes well through the midterms and say the next couple of years. If the Republican Party that came into office continues for even one term beyond this, I feel like it will have cemented everything. So I don't think it really has a bearish impact, again, just in my personal view. And ultimately, and I know we're going to touch on the Arizona thing, this is why I've continually said on the show multiple times, if at the legislative level, if we can get a strategic Bitcoin reserve, that's only going to further cement the legitimacy of the industry. Now, having said all that stuff, I don't think it really matters that it's not Coinbase. You made me laugh about the coin bag. I think that it would be great. And at the end of the day, what we see is tremendous collaboration across both sides of the aisle, right? I see this internally with the Blockchain Association. You see this with many different industry partners who are working cohesively to bring on these kinds of partnerships and so if we are going to be the ones leading this and proselytizing the world, maybe this is the next great wave of how America continues to be the land of prosperity and try and usher in this wave of crypto mass adoption. So I think it's nothing but a boon for the space, in my opinion, at least.
Okay. Interesting. I've just switched back over to the video. If anyone is wondering why the thing is going to sound a bit better, again, I'll just drop again if it doesn't work, but hopefully that is good. Appreciate it takes Funk. I don't know. I think I take your point. You said some things which are true there, which is Trump is just a salesman and they're going to sell as many things as they can. I think as part of this process, which is maybe fine, but sending the memes didn't help the meme market. That kind of had a negative effect on every single meme in existence, at least for a period of time. I say that kind of in joking. This is not the same as that, but we'll have to see. I am more concerned in some ways now that you get the regulatory clarity. I think especially with the stuff coming out of Circle, I think some of these more established people just might not have the run at it as they thought. That's my question mark. But appreciate your take anyway. I think you kind of mentioned the Arizona thing, which is a perfect segue into that, because Ledge is going to take us through that piece of news as well as the other news around Bitcoin, which seems to just keep getting better, to be honest. And the price action is just rock solid here. So Ledge, do you want to update us with what we need to know?
Absolutely, yeah, because Arizona is now the state that is closest in the US to have its own BTC reserve, to have its own strategic Bitcoin reserve. The lawmakers have passed the bill which would allow the state treasurer and retirement system to invest up to 10% of available funds in digital assets, specifically Bitcoin, that is. And the final step in this process is now that it has been sent to the governor's desk for approval. That is according to Bloomberg government. And this bill is called the Arizona Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act. So obviously even carries Bitcoin in the name. And it's a massive, massive step it also puts Arizona on top and in front of that race. I'm currently sharing this website called Bitcoin Laws, which has a cool tracker, which is called the State Reserve Race, where you can see all the different states in the US which are trying to get their own strategic Bitcoin reserve. And again, obviously, Arizona is leading that. You have states like New Hampshire, like Texas, North Carolina, even, who are a bit further in the process. But you have also a plethora of states who are trying to get their own strategic reserve as well. And we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states where this endeavor to get a state level strategic reserve has been declined so far. But obviously, I think that if you have one state that is passing a law like that is actively starting to buy up BTC, that sets a very, very beautiful example for other states to follow. And that's not the only positive thing that's happening in Bitcoin land. There's a couple more quick news that I want to touch on briefly. The other one is that something we spoke about on the show, but it's just nice to see this trend continuing. And it is that the flows into Bitcoin ETFs are continuing to be very, very strong. Even the way this week kicked off on Monday yesterday was impressive, with net inflows of $600 million worth of Bitcoin. That is stronger than the last week closed at 380 and 440 mil on the last 2 trading days. But it just shows that the more than 3 billion in inflows that we've seen in crypto ETFs and more than 2.5 billion that we've seen in BTC ETFs specifically are continuing on this beautiful, beautiful trajectory. And also, Michael Saylor is also continuing his BTC buys. MicroStrategy has acquired another 15,000 BTC, this time for 1.4 billion at a price of 92.7K per Bitcoin. And that now puts a strategy at a total Bitcoin exposure of 553,555 Bitcoin, for a total of 38 billion acquired at an average price of 68.4K.
Like it. Excellent summary here. What did we think, Ledge? The states, obviously, there's been a little bit, for people, for a bit of context, say the timeline for this state kind of Bitcoin reserve news went something like lots of people proposing it, every Bitcoiner or every crypto person getting super excited because they're all getting proposed. And then they really got knocked back by a whole host of states. So then it came in like a bit of reality setting in, where people were like, okay, well, maybe it's not just going to be as straightforward as we thought. Funky, you mentioned though that some of the more friendly states were much more likely to put this stuff through. This seems like the first example where it's going to happen. Is there any reason for us to believe that this shouldn't go through now? Because it still requires a little bit of a signature. And are there other states coming which, in your opinion, are going to much more likely put this these style of Bitcoin bills through? What's your take here?
Okay, so I will kind of say everything from the perspective of a Floridian who knows a lot about what's happening in my state of Florida when it comes to the Bitcoin reserve. So this is great news, right? I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing with Arizona is this is the first domino to fall. Broadly speaking, in some of these other states where it's already been rejected, it tends to be because the state legislatures are pretty evenly spread. When you look at Arizona, it's dominated by Republicans. You look at Texas, dominated by Republicans. You look at Florida, really dominated by Republicans. So I think when you have a state that is controlled by one party, especially in this case, the Republicans, they are much more amenable to getting this legislation passed through. So in Florida, it's already gotten through all the House committees, and it seems like it would be no problem passing it in the House. In fact, when I was there for Blockchain Day a couple weeks ago, I was there visiting, and the day before, when I was doing my artwork, it had just actually gotten out of committee, so it was going to be probably examined on the floor. I would assume it would pass in the House. Now, to your point about Arizona getting signed into law, usually when things go to the governor's desk, more often than not, at least in states where there is a one-party control, it's sort of something that's just a formality, and the governor's going to sign it, right? Now, if it were where a Democrat running the state or something like that, then it could be like, I'm going to flex my muscles and veto this and not let it go into law. But in this case, I'd imagine it's going to go through. I haven't read all the details. Now, in Florida, the trouble that we're having right now is that the Senate version of the bill, which is proposed by Joe Gruters, he's a Trump guy. The guy who sits on the committee that would be the first stop for this is a man named Ngoglia. He's a DeSantis guy. And so they're both running for CFO of the state. So we think that there's going to be some internal politicking that's going to prevent it from passing in Florida, unfortunately. But should that happen, it is a deadlock to pass next year. And what I kept saying in meetings with legislators is like, don't let Texas beat us now, because Florida is a very prideful state in that regard, right? You can ask Cap, he lives in Florida with me. He can tell you what the state is like. And so I think that's sort of, it still has a chance. I don't know if it's 100% going to go through. Texas has already passed the Senate. I don't know if it's gotten all the way through the House, but I'd imagine that Texas, if that's the second domino, it's going to put pressure on Florida to get it done. But we're winding down. We're in the last couple of weeks of the session. So I don't know if it'll pass this year, but it should pass next year if it doesn't pass this year. But I think this is just the first domino. And what's going to happen is you're going to see more and more states follow suit.
Amazing context, Funk. Appreciate all of the knowledge kind of on the ground, having these conversations with the various relevant associations and the additional political context. That's always really helpful for people like us who are not from there on the ground. So thanks, man. Appreciate that. Ledge, you said you had one other thing to add here before we keep it moving.
Yeah, very good additional context by Funky, and also mentioning that veto right on the governor's side is important. As Funky said, oftentimes it is just a formality. In the case of Arizona, you have the governor, Katie Hobbs, being a member of the Democratic Party, and who has not really talked about her stance when it comes to Bitcoin that prominently. So we'll still have to wait and see on that one. But just on a more high level stats, we still have 28 states who have proposed allocating funds to Bitcoin. As I said, 6 have been rejected. 18 are actively currently progressing through the legal channels to see if this bill or if these bills can be implemented. And then I think we also talked about on the show, Kentucky was the very interesting state which had enabled the Bitcoin rights law bill as the first state to do that, which was to protect the miners on the one hand, so that they can continue to run Bitcoin nodes and not have to have a money transmitting license for that. But also as part of that, and this is the part that I did not know actively, is that this bill also blocks the imposition of new taxes on digital asset payments, which is quite significant, I think, as well. So it's not only, that's the point I'm trying to make here, that we're seeing this race on a state level to pass a strategic reserve and just be fast to acquire Bitcoin, but it's also a certain level of competition that we see on a state level to just get attractive other laws and bills to pass for infrastructure companies, for miners, for other people who have a vested interest in crypto and building the infrastructure surrounding it.
Okay. I like it. One thing I wanted to ask, I wanted to share this Bitcoin dominance chart so people can get a bit of a sense of where we are when it comes to Bitcoin dominance. I think a lot of people had some interesting conversations today with IRL people who've been in crypto for like a long time, kind of expressing their surprise at how strong Bitcoin is relative to everything else. Once you kind of dig into a little bit, it starts to become more obvious in the sense that we spoke about there being this real horizontal inflation when it comes to all of these coins that are coming to the market. We've got more coins than ever, got more TGs than ever, more unlocks unlocking than ever. And so like the Bitcoin value prop seems to be stronger than ever, particularly with the macro that is taking place. Just wanted to share that I think it was around, there's only been in the last, what is this, like 8 years or so, from 2017-ish onwards, Bitcoin's kind of been in this 70-ish% dominance to maybe at the low point, like 30, 50% dominance over the last, or maybe 40% dominance or something like that over the last 8 years. it kind of went really low back in 2018, 2017, sorry, in 2018 with all the mania that was taking place then recovered. Then back in 2021, when we had NFTs and ETH's run and everything that happened there, it then went down again. And since then, basically, you see this just steady rise up. We're showing this on the screen for people who are watching the charts on YouTube or on Twitter video, in case that's helpful. So it's been like stepping up over the last year or so, back to 63% now. Historically, we're getting to a point where it would consider, and again, I don't know if we've got enough data to know what kind of points it turns, but in the 8 years we've had before and the 1 or 2 spikes up and down we've had, we're getting to a point where it might consider start turning the other way. If you even believe in this kind of thing, just what's your take on that in general? Like, is there any reason to think that the chart would suggest we might be making a turn, or how do you feel about Bitcoin dominance and how it's going in the next 6 to 12 months?
Okay, the second question is easier. The second question is easier to answer. I very much like it. As I said multiple times on the show, I have been shifting more and more of my portfolio into BTC for all of these structural reasons that we have been talking about for months on the show as well. I think if I look at the chart, analyzing it like from a chart technical pattern, in my opinion, wouldn't make too much sense with this dominance chart specifically, but more so looking at the surrounding things that happen. Obviously, the main thing being the US and the ways the federal level as well as the state levels will try and are trying to acquire Bitcoin. That competition that also seems to be heating up between the United States as well as China, not only talking about the trade war, but also talking about the fact that China has very, very significant Bitcoin holdings that are very similar in number to the holdings of the United States. The miners in China are and have been very, very strong historically as well. There's like so many signs pointing towards significant entities, institutions, nation states wanting to get or actually getting more and more exposure to Bitcoin, which just simply has not been the case before. That just did not happen before. And that to me is indicating that this Bitcoin dominance chart might continue to increase. And I think this is also the part where I'd be careful to try to apply patterns from past cycles to this cycle. Typically in past cycles, you would say, oh, once BTC dominance is falling off, this is kickstarting the altcoin season, etc. I would not be happy to make blanket statements like this. I would now always feel that it's important to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart in conjunction to what's going on a US level, on a state level, on a nation state level, that is, with all the Bitcoin policies and acquisition programs being passed around the world.
Yeah, I like that. I'm actually completely in agreement with that. Even if you look at this chart, it's to me, you might try to find a trend here, but it's just completely random. If you're really asking me what I think on it, way too much stuff happening that is entirely novel, that has never happened in Bitcoin's history before, and crypto's history. So I think it's like a new chapter being written, and then you've got to figure out what the direction for that chapter is, rather than look back on how the story was told before. So that's my like quick reaction there. Funk, final take here. We're going to keep it moving. What's your take on dominance and Bitcoin?
Completely concur, and I think dominance will continue to grind higher. I wouldn't be surprised to see if this thing reach 70% just because of all the things that you guys pointed out. Plus, as a real quick addendum, I was scanning, I read about 3 different articles real quick. It's not a mandate. So if Arizona even does, if she signed into law, the language, you'll appreciate this as a former lawyer, B, says may. So like that, it's not a mandate for them to actually start buying Bitcoin. Of course, crypto Twitter is erupting like that going to happen. And because she also got healthcare funding, now she's more likely to sign this into legislation, into law, rather than vetoing it. So just wanted to add that too.
Good point. Yeah, I think it allows them to buy up to 10%. Is it 10% of certain set?
Yeah.
So, yeah, 10% of a certain set of funds could be allocated to Bitcoin if they then decide. So yeah, it is not a guarantee, guaranteed set of buy orders into the asset. So good, good quick note there. Okay, we're talking about Bitcoin dominance. We might touch on this MasterCard news in a second. But while we do that, Ledge, we were speaking yesterday about the meme coin bounce, which you definitely would have seen. I think it took people a little bit by surprise. We spoke at length yesterday about how it's less and less the president's market. You know how we spoke about it being the president's market for a lot. It's just like whatever tweet comes out from Trump or the Trump family or the administration, it's just moving markets all the time. We're like incredibly sensitive to what's being said. It seems to be like we're moving into a space where that is not the case as much. And so the question is that partly why people are far more comfortable to start putting some risk on? We've had things like Housecoin, although it might be down 20% today, it really ripped up. We had Troll go to 30 mil, dip all the way back down. I think it's back up at 28 mil as well. So there's some of these coins that are definitely getting some more energy, both the old ones, and when I say old, I mean, you know, probably less than 12 months old. And in addition, like brand new ones that have been released in the last few weeks. Definitely some more energy in that environment. My position yesterday was that I don't think we see the heights that we see before. That's what I was like putting forward to Brad, because it's like the meme of the roller coaster where the first roller coaster is the highest, the next one is lower, the next one's lower, the next one's lower. And I think there's so many different ways. Even just the last week, you've got Pump Fund, you've got Radium now doing a launch pad, you've got Bonk doing a launch pad. Everyone's mind share is getting further split if it wasn't already. The capital is getting further split if it wasn't already. Harder and harder to get behind one or two particular things to really send it much higher. Still think there'll be some big runners, but that's just like my general position. Would be curious to hear your thoughts on general, like putting on more risk, and then specifically on whether the coins go to like the crazy directions that we've seen before.
Yeah, I had said last week that I slowly started to feel a bit more comfortable to put some risk back on into the market, and also in particular with some of the AI coins. And Stefano had pointed it out in the comments. It's something I wanted to share either way, that apart from the memes that you have mentioned, it seems like we are seeing a second virtual season. Yes, you're perfectly right. The second roller coaster loop is not as big as the first one. But if you look at some of the virtual tokens, so the AI agents, as well as the virtual token itself, they've been on a massive run these last 7 days. Virtuals itself is up 150%. AI XPT, the most popular AI agent, is up 75%. But as you said, it's trading at 14 cents, at like at 146 mil. Used to trade at 900 mil for its all-time high. But then you also have very notable performers like Vader being up 360%, like Trust Me Bro being up, I think that was over the, where is Trust Me Bro? That is being up 400% over the last 7 days, even 500% over the last 14 days. So it does seem that this interest is also creeping back into AI coins, which I have thought that it would happen. I have also thought it would happen more outside of the virtuals ecosystem, but it's pretty interesting to see this very strong bounce back, because if you look at some of the smaller, quote unquote, small AI agents, look at something like Trust Me Bro, which, okay, this is not long enough of a chart. Even Trust Me Bro used to trade at almost 3 cents, and it's now at half a cent or 0.6 cents. So even this wick back up is significant compared to its all-time high. I know that the chart is like still down 70-ish%, but it's not like that we are down 90% and bounce back 10 or 20%. Those are actually notable moves on the chart. Even if you look at this all-time chart, you can see a significant bounce back. You can also see that with the Pengu token, if we quickly also look outside of the AI side of things. But I was hoping for AI to come back. I was thinking that it will come back. Again, we're not talking about like reaching all-time highs. I don't think that this is the point now, but I am surprised by this concerted pump. across the virtuals ecosystem. It's quite nice to see because I still have some bags that I've been holding. I didn't sell everything. I obviously was holding moon bags, and now this might be significant that I start to notice some of these tokens pop up on my portfolio trackers again.
What are you doing in that scenario then? Like
Sell.
you know, yeah. So now you're using this opportunity to sell out, right?
Yeah. Because I have bags now that used to be maybe 2K, and doing 500% over 14 days means they are now 5-figure bags again. Yes, they are not like 20 or 25K, which they used to be, but they're still like significant enough to be like, okay, I'm happily taking profits here.
Yeah. I think that's the wise thing to do, because my position would be, honestly, if you took two different things to compare there. You took Pengu and you took the AI coins. Some of these AI coins, I'm not saying all of them. I think that there is a subsection of AI coins that are more interesting. A lot of these were meme coins dressed up as AI agents. And so I have absolutely no idea why anyone would be buying them. Like, if they're going to be up 50% or 100% or 200% in the last few weeks, I would 100% be selling into it, because especially if you're looking at your AI agent thinking, is this really some novel AI tech, or is this just a meme coin dressed up in some ChatGPT wrapper? That's the honest question you need to ask yourself when you're holding your AI stuff. And to be clear, there is some AI stuff that is not that. But a lot of the mania was that specifically. So for whatever reason, you're up 5x. That would be the thing I would be getting rid of. I actually got rid of, I sold off, I can almost certainly say that I sold off everything in that period of time, not necessarily at the top, but just with the philosophy of always being selling. It's rarely part of my strategy actually to keep a moon bag. I know lots of people think always keep a moon bag in case. I'm very bad at keeping a moon bag, but then that's partly why I kind of compound quite nicely, because I sell, and then it looks good to me, and then I just sell out, and I very rarely get stressed about if it goes up much higher. So interesting alternative strategies there, even, which I guess is helpful to discuss. Funky, final take here on the AI resurgence, or just the meme coin resurgence. Actually, we've just got a couple minutes left for the show. How do you want to close out here? What's your take?
No, I tried to quickly say this in 30 seconds yesterday, so I was just trying to give a little bit more of a nuanced rationale for the demand in the virtuals ecosystem and why this is starting to thrive again. So there's a new Virgin point system, VIRGEN. And so what they're doing is curating the agents now. And so if you hold the virtuals token, this gets you wallets. This gets you points, rather. The points are accrued to your wallet that holds the token. And they are inflationary, these points. So every day you get dropped more points, and the points actually expire on a certain timeline. So they incentivize people to use the points to bid into the allocations for these EAOs, or early agent offerings. Now, Beta Research is doing a very good job, because what he is trying to do is actually kind of curate which ones he thinks are going to be good. And he's actually really nailed a few of these ones early on. I haven't participated at all because I've just been too busy. So 20% of the points get distributed to people who just hold the virtuals token. 5% of the points go to the Vader stakers. I am one of those rare cases that did keep my moon bag, mainly because I had staked all of my Vader except for what I set aside to sell my initial to reclaim my funds when I first invested. So I still have it staked, and I'm just going to ride it out and see where it is when it unstakes in August. But having those two things has gotten me into these EAOs, which then have performed very, very well. So I think that's kind of why there's a lot of really good incentive alignment and mechanisms that are causing this, and why you're seeing both of these tokens kind of pump, because people need to hold the tokens so that they can access those early agent offerings, which, to your point, could be just, ChatGPT wrappers, meme coins. But it's like ICO mania in a smaller, tiny subset of an ecosystem. So that kind of helps clarify it a little bit.
That definitely does help. Ledge, you go first.
I just wanted to thank Funky because he mentioned Vader and mentioned Vader staking, and that just reminded me that I have staked Vader myself, and I just found the wallet which has the tokens in them, because I would otherwise completely have forgotten that. So thank you very much. That is a lovely find.
I mean, one suggestion, Legendary, is maybe stop losing all of your positions. How about that? What about tracking this stuff? Have you ever thought about that?
It's in my Rabby, but it's too many wallets. That's the thing. When you have dozens of wallets, you have to click through all of them to like actually
Well,
find out what's moving.
Yeah. So you have to track it. That's why. Yeah, I mean, sure, there's different wallets. That's the point. You got to track what's in all the wallets somewhere else that's not the wallets, right?
That is true, but then you get so many notifications throughout the day. If you use a tool like Grab User to get like notified about big moves, that I'm like, nope. I just can't do this because then I get constant notifications. Like, we still need a portfolio tracking app that has more filters where I can say, if a position moves from being like, I don't know, 4 to 5 figures, 5 to 6 figures, whatever it is, give me a notification, but don't annoy me if something goes from like $200 to $800 to 1K, because I don't care. Just annoy me about like significant moves that actually matter relative to the portfolio size that I'm holding, maybe overall on that specific wallet.
This may sound alien to a lot of people, but I'm a believer in the manual tracking. Like one of my fears actually is like we outsource our tracking to like a portfolio tracker or whatever, and the portfolio tracker like doesn't work, or just whatever, they have an error or something. So I keep a little tab on spreadsheets, and this obviously spreadsheets do not update, which is like a horrible thing to do when you then have to go through and like actually try to update everything. But it's actually a useful exercise. You go through and you update everything super manually. It takes me hours when I do that. But it's like it's a whole process that I go through. It's almost like a ritual, and you really get to know your portfolio again. So that is clearly sadistic behavior, as Justefano says, that I can confirm. I am a serial killer now. Manually tracking is wild. Yep. Well, look, I thought we were all about sovereignty in this space. I'm not going to outsource my portfolio tracking to a unknown portfolio tracking provider. That's the whole point. I'm going to do it my damn self. Anyway, maybe that's a nice message to conclude. We've been running over a bunch this week, having some good conversations. But guys, that is the show for today. Hope you enjoyed it as usual. We're going to be back as usual Monday to Friday. So we'll be back same time tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour, live on X Video, YouTube, and we'll be uploading to Apple and Spotify podcast too. We hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to Ledge and Funky for their contributions today. As usual, have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.